Future Emperor of Arrakis, I greet you. Today we'll go over all the key details and information about patch 1.1.20, which will be arriving between the 12th and 13th of August, depending on the server you play on and your location. We'll focus entirely on efficiency and the direct impact for you as a player. We won't dive into minor things like audio tweaks. Instead, we'll head straight for the most important aspects of this patch, those that I believe will truly matter to you whether you're into PvE or PvP. When it comes to effects and animations, the main improvements are focused on interior lighting and shading, especially for Caladan and Harkonnen structures. The hologram visuals in the testing station have also been upgraded to be smoother, more realistic and more engaging, perfect for players who enjoy the story context of what's happening or has happened in those stations. While harvesting a spice field, the trade interface that used to bug out and display under your character is now fixed. This issue often occurred when arriving at or leaving a spice field, making it unclear whether a worm was actually coming for you or not. The booster on the assault ornithopter has been fixed. Previously it could overheat automatically even when it wasn't activated, forcing players to exit the craft, detach the booster and reattach it. For scouts, this often meant stowing the ornithopter and pulling it back out, a rather annoying process. Several missions such as down but not out, old car tag and staring frame and strails are now fixed in areas where closed rooms were protected by a penta shield. The objective was to clear all enemies inside, but even after doing so the mission wouldn't progress. The only workaround was to die or find another way to bypass the bug. Collisions with wind turbines have been significantly improved. Now, when flying into them, there's an invisible barrier that stops you. No player or vehicle can pass through it. Weapon switching animations are now smoother. No more half-second delay when hitting 2 to swap to a sniper rifle. The transition is faster and feels more responsive. That's all for effects and animations. Now let's move on to the user interface. In the user interface category, if you're a tryhard who's been playing for more than 18 hours straight, you might have encountered a bug where certain structures glitched out and their textures broke, making it impossible to interact with or dismantle them. This is now fixed. And honestly, if you played that long, consider taking a break or maybe seeing a psychologist. In the Haga Basin, enemy spawns will now increase if activity rises, meaning if in the past hour you've been killing more enemies than usual during a siege, spawn rate and quantity will both go up by 20%. Perfect for Landsraad operations. A bug in Sheol has been fixed where stepping into a radiation pool would instantly trigger the read death indicator, even though you weren't actively dying and you had no idea how much time you really had left. Multi-disc triggering from chests will no longer duplicate rewards. You'll get one reward and that's it. Likewise, quest rewards from Harko village will no longer duplicate. This doesn't apply to Landsraad tasks. The L key bind, which originally opened the Landsraad session, also unlocked other things on the map. Now it correctly opens only the Landsraad session. The node count display when scanning Stravidium in the deep desert is now accurate. No more 120 nodes when there are actually only 15. Solar bank notifications have been fixed. You'll now get an alert not only when depositing but also when receiving funds, for example from an auction sale. Missing buttons when recycling items into chests or vehicles are now back, no relog required. The subfield console now correctly displays energy values and how long generators will actually keep shields up. Before, it might say 15 days, 8 hours when the real duration was only 3 days, often leading to players returning to find their base gone. A deposit extract all function has been added for all resources. No more endless clicking. Contracts and journey entries now have a checkbox, so you can mark them as completed and move on. On the subfield, power, water and storage panels are now available for better tracking of base resources. Faction vendors now have a banner on the map for easier navigation, clearly showing where to collect rewards for tools, vehicles or weapons. And finally, a proximity voice chat icon has been added next to your character name, so you'll instantly know whether it's enabled. That's the key part of the user interface updates. Next, we'll move on to story, journey, contracts, and the new player experience. This section is more for players who don't play the game intensively, maybe just 2 or 3 hours a week, and enjoy the atmosphere and story rather than competing with seasoned veterans. According to the storyline, Zantara will no longer be able to shoot ships out of the sky as he could before. We used to joke that it was his hobby, climbing up to a high point and blasting ships with a bazooka. That's no longer possible, and it now remains purely as an animation element kept in the game for certain mechanics like ship manifests. More details about this will be revealed in future DLC. Contracts such as Missing Payon, Growing Pain, Torment Soul, The Impact of Ecology, Proving Grounds, and Rock You by Jessery will no longer leave quest items in your inventory once completed. These items previously occupied slots despite serving no purpose. After the update, they'll be automatically removed, even for players who have already finished the quests. Faction betrayal, switching from one faction to another, for example from Harkonnen to Atreides, was previously a one-time action. Now it must be repeated every 14 days. In the deep desert within the Landsraad houses, Vaiku and Maros, rewards should now function correctly without bug workarounds or waiting for resets. Loading issues have also been fixed. Previously, entering the deep desert using fast travel or triggering other load screens could cause the loading animation in the bottom right to loop indefinitely. That will no longer happen, and the game will load normally without requiring a client restart. The point calculation for delivering vehicles or compactors to the Landsraad has also been fixed. If you're supposed to receive 3000 points for a buggy, you'll now get exactly 3000 instead of 4500 as before. That's everything for this section. Now let's move on to world building and explorations. In world building and exploration, there are several important fixes that were necessary because many players couldn't progress, and it was quite a fail. A bug where you wouldn't gain XP for discovering locations while in a vehicle has been fixed. In practice, if there was a new deep desert sector and you went to discover a station, you'd reach it but get no 100 to 200 XP reward if you were in an ornithopter. Now you'll receive the XP even when discovering from a vehicle, making leveling much easier. You also can no longer die during an NPC interaction. For example, if you were talking to a Landsraad contact and an NPC enemy in the camp could kill you, or you could burn to death from flames, that will no longer happen. At Maaskaret Imperial Station and in the testing station, where there used to be hidden doors containing plenty of scrap and diamond dust, the issue has been fixed, meaning that if you can get inside, you can also get back out. You can also no longer get your vehicle stuck in a trade post. Previously, you could fly in, quickly unload, buy or sell something, talk to an NPC, for example, to claim Landsraad rewards, and the vehicle could bug out. That's now fixed. Lastly, in the break of Hephaestus storyline, the cinematic will no longer display a black screen. If you've had the misfortune of experiencing that, don't worry, it won't happen anymore and you can continue the story smoothly. That's all for world building and exploration. Next, we're moving on to vehicles. In vehicles, we start with a fix for the mining laser bug. Previously, when mining from more than 5 meters away, the laser would heat up but wouldn't actually collect materials. This has now been fixed and works one-to-one. Next, a bug with switching wings on ornithopters has been fixed. Changing skins, e.g. from basic to Atreides or Harkonnen, would sometimes cause the wings to shift to incorrect positions. They now stay in place, allowing for proper repairs or removal. A radiation bug has been addressed. Previously, you couldn't die from radiation while inside an ornithopter. Now, if radiation should kill you, it will. Even in the cockpit, all modules now take splash damage. Before, only direct rocket hits worked. This means you can now destroy the chassis, the ornithopter's core structure, which will bring the whole craft down. In PvP, instead of needing 8 to 9 direct hits, 2 to 3 well-placed splash shots may be enough. Ornithopters can no longer get stuck in textures when a sandworm spawns nearby, a common cause of being unable to enter your craft and dying as a result. A new restriction: if you're not the owner or co-owner of a vehicle, you can't repair it. Associates or players without access rights won't be able to perform repairs. Ground vehicles now take fall damage. For example, dropping a crawler from 500 meters may destroy it. Buffs: all boosters, ground or ornithopter, have 10% more power. Courier ornithopter has 20% increased flight speed. Carrier ornithopter has 50% less heating while flying or boosting. PCUs and generators now better reduce heating. Upgrading to MK6 is highly recommended. Debuffs: Scout ornithopter scanner now has half the scan rate and generates more heat to prevent spam. Scout ornithopter wings have 50% slower takeoff speed without a booster. Assault ornithopter has 30% slower takeoff speed without a booster. Overlapping has been fixed. Previously, skill ornithopters could pin an assault ornithopter against a wall or the ground to prevent it from taking off, often leaving it to be destroyed or eaten by a sandworm. Now, collision physics cause both sides to bounce off and the targeted craft takes no damage. This effectively ends this form of griefing. The front utility slot on the assault ornithopter has been temporarily removed, as it was often empty and confusing for players. A new utility module for this slot is planned for the next DLC. That's all for vehicles. Next, we'll move on to combat. So changes in combat. Self-healing can no longer stack extra bonuses beyond its intended value. It will now only apply the instant heal plus any specifically intended passive bonus. Previously, healing could exceed limits even without the right perks, breaking balance. Battle HUD for Trooper previously only affected Trooper ability cooldowns, with a few exceptions for Mentat skills. It will now apply globally to all active and passive abilities. Poison Tooth on death leaves behind a poison cloud. Now has longer duration, faster effect onset and higher damage, increasing the chance that attackers die from the poison. Mauler Pistol, Dural and Plastin variants now applies a slow effect on hit. Crippling Strike fixed a bug where it drained twice the intended stamina from both you and your opponent. Now works at correct values. Source of Power, the Mentat device that restored 100% of your power pack per second is reduced to 30%. This is a big nerf for co-op and base sieging with laser guns. Suspensor Blast for Trooper no longer grants hyper armor, only the blast, damage and slow effects remain. Doti effects, fire, poison now continue after entering a vehicle, meaning you can die while driving. Stamina regen and power regen stop while channeling, e.g. using a bandage. You must choose whether to heal or recharge. Sentinel turret, Mentat, will no longer spawn directly above you, but at least 2 meters away to avoid blocking movement. Players will no longer dehydrate at a respawn point. Hunter Seeker gets a new view module toggle for better target visibility, showing them fully instead of just outlines. Litany Against Fear now reduces positional damage, e.g. swordman kicks, and no longer cancels other active effects, allowing you to have both the armor buff and source of power at the same time. Hypersprint will no longer launch you out of the map when using certain kick abilities. The Hunter Seeker operator will no longer die if the drone is destroyed by a sandworm. Compel skill for voice first ability will now work on CC targets, bypassing the usual rule that a second CC allows the target to dash. Fixed a bug with the stamina bar where receiving a second wind effect, full stamina after a hit, would fail to restore stamina if you were CC'd or dashing, often leading to instant death. PvP respawn token now only works while alive. If you die a second time before retrieving your loot, the first loot disappears and only a new token remains, similar to Dark Souls mechanics. This system also applies in Haga Basin, not just in the deep desert. That's it for combat. Next, we move on to the economy of Arrakis. In economy, the focus is mainly on solars and adjustments to selling, fixed incorrect pricing for unique weapons and tools at vendors. Previously, some items could be bought much cheaper than official prices shown in the Dune gaming tool or via API. Intel point cap has been removed. Previously, the limit was 3,000 points, so any points earned beyond that were lost if unspent. Now points can be stored without limit. Consumable items listed on the auction will no longer lose durability over time. This prevents items from disappearing mid-listing due to expiration. Remove the ability to equip the quest item Ceremonial Damask Hill Sword from the Swordman quest line given by Duncan, Idaho. A bug allowed it to be used in combat, dealing 500 damage per hit even through shields. Fixed incorrect names for weapons, suits and utilities, e.g. Golves instead of gloves. In crafting menus, items can now be searched by name. Floor sand and spice sand fields in Haga Basin now spawn in sandworm threatened areas, no more safe farming spots. Increased solar earnings from selling crafted items, e.g. wind turbines. Selling larger batches gives a higher per item price. Solars will no longer be found in chests within PvP zones of the deep desert area from D to I. They can now only be obtained in zones A to C and north of C. Rockets cost increase from 1 to 4 duralumium ingots. Weight increase from 0.05 to 2, 4 times heavier. This limits players from carrying dozens at a time. Vendor purchase prices for some items have been reduced to 1/10, e.g. spice, beer, wine. In some cases, vendor buy prices have been increased. This encourages trading with vendors rather than overpricing items in the auction house. You can now view schematic item stats without learning them first. No need to craft to check their parameters. Added new desert mechanic decoration at the structure vendor and a new sandbike type at the vehicle vendor. Both are available in Arrakis and other major cities. That's all for economy. Next, we'll move on to resources and building. In resources and building, hardcore structures such as doors or triangle walls now connect more smoothly with other structures. Previously, some types would overlap or shift in a way that wasn't visually obvious but would block other items in the build menu. Penta shields now require physical structures rather than invisible blocks. If you have a shield built into nothing, it will automatically be destroyed after the patch with no materials refunded, and anything under it it, such as an ornithopter, will be lost. Sandworms will no longer attack projections created by Mentat abilities. Some players exploited this on public servers against large and grand spice fields, placing multiple projections to lure sandworms, which would then destroy other players' equipment like crawlers. Resources on Penta shields should no longer be spammable. Developers claim it's fixed. Time will tell. Eruption visuals for small and medium spice fields now match their size. Previously, their effects were inconsistent, potentially misleading players. Fixed the display of some spice fields, e.g. a grand spice field could appear empty for one player but full for another. This should now be consistent. Static Compactor was initially planned to give higher trade gain when generating spice against sandworms, but this change has been scrapped. It will remain at current values. Those are the key updates for resources and building. Next, we'll look at the changes for Deep Desert and Landsraad. In both PvE and PvP zones, you'll now find fresh rock formations and brand new resource nodes worth fighting over. That means more places to build bases and more spots to farm materials like stravidium, titanium, and more. Within the Landsraad, there's a new option to donate solars. I can't disclose the exact number to flood a full tier yet, but we're talking millions. If you thought a few 100,000 was a lot, sorry, it won't cut it. Sandworms in the deep desert now have a 50% chance to perform a stealth approach, giving you little visual warning. Also, collision with Shai Hulud is back. If you ram into it, you explode. Why bring it back? Don't ask me. Practically speaking, if you are solo farming a spice field, keep your eyes peeled. If Shai Hulud is coming, you run. If you miss it and die anyway, that's on your report, not mine. More changes. PvE zones now spawn titanium and stravidium more often, along with small, medium spice fields. It's another concession to players who avoid PvP, the ones who complain when someone kills them there. Here you go, another concession. Ideally, keep your noses out of PvP, and if you don't, please stop whining. It hurts the game. There's also a chance for a large spice field in PvE, but it will contain 150,000 spice sands instead of 300,000. 3 crawlers instead of 6. Yet another concession. Stay in PvE and race to see who farms it faster. Down in Shield Wall, the A/B sectors, stravidium and titanium can now spawn. Some players won't have to travel deep into the desert at all. Spawn in and start hunting nodes. Takeaway: a PvE player in PvP will likely escape more easily, but if they roam solo, they'll probably get killed by a player or by a sandworm if they don't pay attention. With materials now all over PvE, there's even less reason to enter PvP. Exceptions are stations with schematic items, and even there, tools exist to check whether it's worth your time. We'll see where this goes. Honestly, we discussed it on Monday with Joel and others, and I wasn't happy with how the studio handled advisor input. It confirmed what we'd heard weeks ago. If devs blindly follow PvE demands, the game will die. No offense, many of you don't actually know what you want or why these mechanics exist, yet you complain about them. Either accept the design or play something you're used to. Destiny, WoW, Arca, you complained there too. Studios didn't budge, and you still play them more than Dune. Awakening. Why? Pretty obvious. However, thanks for your time and for watching. I hope patch 1.1.20 is crystal clear now. And what to expect from future Dune Awakening updates. Check MagicStark.cz for full guides and walkthroughs, not just for Dune. I'm also working on ARC Raiders. If you're into it, you'll find it there. And of course, join our Gaming Hub community Discord and the other links. Thanks again. See you in the next video.